Welcome to Kendall's Holocaust Museum. We are very proud of our facility here, and I thought I would give you a mini tour for those of you who cannot come to Terre Haute to actually see our lecture hall and our exhibit. So I always start here. We have here a poster of Hitler's rise to power. He rose to power in 1933. From there on, I have a couple of pictures. My twin sister and I, Miriam, when we were one. This is the Moses family and a friend just before we were taken away. Then we have here my poster with my village, and again, the last picture of the family. We are going to move on because here are posters of as Hitler rose to power. We see 1933 at the Olympic Stadium. Then below it is a picture of Heidelberg. And what amazed me, that every single building practically has a Nazi flag on. And when I ask young people, don't you find that unusual? They said, oh yeah. I said, well, do you fly the American flag on 4th of July? Some say yes, some say no. And I said, did anybody come to your house to arrest you if you didn't fly it? And they are surprised. Of course not. I said, do you know why? And some of them will come up with it. If no, I tell them, because in the United States, we have one important thing called freedom. We have the right to fly an American flag, or if we don't want to, we don't fly it. And then we go on with Hitler's rise to power, and this, in this case, we want to see the actions that Hitler took in his Nazi philosophy of racial purity. So he wanted to keep the world pure, he said, and therefore handicapped, physically and mentally, gypsies, homosexual, Jews, and anybody who opposed him were genetically inferior, and there were 11 million people who were murdered. Go on, we have an exhibit here of the Mengele family as part of the bigger exhibit called Eugenics, Intertwined Lives. The Moses Twins and Dr. Mengele. So we have that, again, Nazi propaganda. I mean, Hitler, if we really want to understand it, it didn't just rose to power and immediately started the camps. They started, this is the ideal area and race they wanted to create. And here is the decrepit Jew, the unworthy human being that had to be eliminated. And the posters were put up in many places in Germany and then later on in other countries. We also see how the Nazi propaganda, they would put up posters in Jewish shops, and that would say, buy only in German shops. Again, the effort to dehumanize the Jews in the eyes of the German, and so they could embrace the Nazi philosophy and support Hitler. That goes on here in these pictures. And then we have here an exhibit of Kristallnacht, which is when finally people in the world and the Jews in Germany realized that Hitler was really somebody who meant every word he said, and he was out to kill the Jews and destroy the world. And here we have that. Then this is the unique exhibit of the journey of the St. Louis, when 937, I think, Jews got visas to try to leave Germany and come to the Western world, but nobody gave them permit to land, so the passengers of the St. Louis went back. And that was May 13, here it is, 937 passengers were sent back to Germany, and most of them were murdered. We keep going on with the final solution. Jews are being picked up, carry their last belongings on their backs, or in little two-wheel wheelbarrows. And then we can see again Adolf Hitler. And these were the young German boys in Germany. Boys at age 10 were drafted into the German Hitler's youth movement. And then we can see a little boy about the same age who's being arrested for being Jewish. This is one of the ghettos, I think it's the Warsaw ghetto, where Jews are standing around behind brick walls. Here is another picture of the Warsaw ghetto. We also have here a picture of the Kristallnacht ghetto, where we know the meaning of the butterflies, a poem written by a young boy who says, the butterfly, the last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dazzling yellow, perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against white stone. Such a yellow is carefully light, it carried lightly way up high. It went away, I am sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks I have lived in here, penned up inside this ghetto, but I have found what I love here. The dandelions call to me, and the white chestnut branches in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live here in the ghetto. He was 14 years old. His name was Pavel Friedman, and the poem was written in June 4, 1942. But that was the model ghetto, the Kristallnacht ghetto, because the children went to school and they had theater and performed. So Hitler, when the people complained, said, what are you complaining about? They have a good life. Here it is, the model ghetto. But it was all fake, of course. So we can see how the mass extermination moves on. This poster just shows the different symbols. The Nazis like to use triangle for different demeaning. This is for criminals, this is for homosexuals. Jews actually were 2 triangles put together. And as Hitler's final solution is proceeding, we can see that the shoes, these are the shoes, and what I found interesting about this poster, if anybody wants to study, that they would list the different, it says, men's clothing, mantles, clothes, 99,000, hosen, 62,000, pullovers, 9,000, pajamas, 6,000, and then this is Frauen from women, coats, 155,000. So they listed all the loot that they collected from the victims for recording. Then we have here the suitcases, and we are now arriving to the cattle car, one of the cattle cars. This was the type of cattle car that I was we traveled in, we were crammed in. We were told by the Hungarians in our ghetto to leave all our personal belongings behind, because the place we were going to will have everything we needed. So we traveled in the cattle car end of May without any water, without any supplies. It was very, very hot. And when the train would stop, we would ask the guard by our cattle car for water. And every time he would ask for 5 gold watches. At the time, I didn't really understand why we were asking for water where we never got any. But I understand it in the last 36 years. It was our only way of getting some information of where we were taken. It was the end of the 3rd day, the train stopped. The answer came back in German, and then we realized for sure, but that our fears were correct. We were not being taken to Hungary to a labor camp, but to Germany to be murdered. So we were disembarked on the cattle car, and here is the way the camp really looked for people. It's an enormously big camp. It sits on 450 acres. It was built for 100,000 people. Here is a selection platform. A little strip of land measures 85 by 35 feet, where millions of people were ripped apart from their families forever. And we were ripped apart from my family within 30 minutes. Miriam and I no longer had a family, and we became part of a little group of 13 sets of twins and one mother. We also have here an interesting poster that shows the different countries that where Jews were taken away and the number of Jews that were murdered in these countries. I came from the group called Hungary, and the Hungarians, 450,000 Jews were murdered within a couple of months. We can see again here the selection at arrival, the inside of the camp, and we have an excellent picture here of the selection platform, and that is looking from the entrance behind this building. We can see how the selection platform looked. To the left of the selection platform is the roadway, and between the selection platform and the railroad track is a very, very deep ditch. Here is a picture of Auschwitz I. Again, a very good quality picture. And Auschwitz I sits on a much, much smaller lot. I think 2.5 acres, maybe 3 acres. And it has 2-story brick buildings and the word that says Arbeit macht frei, which means work will make you free. We have here the way the camp looks now, the barracks close up, and inside the barrack, crude and filthy, with a 3-story high bunk beds. I often, when I talk to groups, I talk about our daily food. Breakfast was white, black, brownish liquid, and bitter. That was breakfast. At noon, it was that white stuff that looks like cream of wheat, but we couldn't swallow it nor spoon it, and at night we would get this dark piece of bread. Again, an overview of the camp as it looks today. Many of the buildings have been disappeared, torn down. Only the foundations are there. But this is what we see when we go to Auschwitz, except there are a few barracks, both brick and wooden barracks, that we can walk in and see how it was. This is a poster of the Mengele Twins. Here we are, children, skin and bones, and here is Dr. Joseph Mengele as we would see him every morning. And here even is one of the documents that we found in Auschwitz, and we can see it says 10 August 1944, Auschwitz, the Waffen-SS-Polizei, that they took blood material for the study of nitrogen, nitrogen chloride, and Tokatahara. And here you can, in that poster, you can see my name, Moses Eva, and my number, which is capital A-7063. Auschwitz was the only Nazi camp that tattooed its inmates. So my husband, for instance, was liberated in Buchenwald, and he does not have a tattoo, even though he was in Buchenwald for 4 years. We are going to turn on to the other corner where we have an interesting thing to see about how the barrack where the twins were at the time only has a big poster that says that children, Jewish children, twins between the ages of 2 and 16 were kept here as Mengele's guinea pigs. We see here vials that are still in Auschwitz today. They are marked in a box, preparation, capital BE 1034, and there are still 7 vials. The content of these vials, we do not know what they have, but some of these contents were injected into our bodies. And we can see here again a bigger picture of the vials that I put on that poster. And this poster basically is a poster that came from the experiments done at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute before Hitler rose to power, because they were doing studies of twins since they were an institute for genetic studies. So charts for the eyes, instrument to measure nose, ears, and other parts of the face. Here are the eye charts, here are skin charts, and hair charts. And these IDs were transferred onto Auschwitz, except in our case, we were kept naked for 8 hours a day. The injections that were injected into our bodies, we never knew. From the 1,500 sets of twins, only 200 individuals survived. Most of them died in the experiment because one twin would be injected with a germ, then that twin died, the other one was killed. Here is a picture of people who have given up on life. That's the way this person looks. We are now going into the department of the Mangala Twins, and we have here quite a few pictures of the Mangala Twins. This is the Rosenbaum twins with Mrs. Rosenbaum, Ruthie and Rosie Rosenbaum. This is a picture again from a book as Mengele Twins. You look and you can see their skin and bones, and there is another picture. Here are Leah and Hedva Stern when they were little, when they arrived there. This is Olga and Vera Grossman after the war. Here is Peter and his twin brother Thomas Shomoji, and this is also a picture right after liberation. Here is Vera and her twin sister Rachel Brown, and these 3 pictures are all after liberation. We see here Renee and Renata Grossman with their father, and here is Renee after the war. Both of them live in New York still. And this is a picture of the Shomoji brothers when they were little boys. Here is another poster that I collected pictures of surviving grown-up twins. This is Helen and Pearl Rappaport. They were the Heskovich twins, actually Pearl Pufalis and Helen Rappaport. They were the Hershkovich twins. Ephraim, both of them, Helen just died a few months ago, so we are missing both of them. They were very big supporters of the museum here. Vera Kriegel, she was 5. Her twin sister lives in Israel. They were the little girls here, and neither one of them are doing very well. Moshe Ofer, who was 13 or 14, and here is Ephraim Reichenberg. Yona Lux lives in Israel. These twins, except for Otto Klein and George Heimler, Renee and me, so Ephraim, Vera, Moshe, and Yona all live in Israel. They still are alive and live in Israel. Here is George Heimler, who was 6. I think he lives in California, and his name in the camp was Hedel. Irena or Renata Hisme with me, and here is her twin brother Rene. And Otto Klein, he lived in Switzerland, but I have not heard from him for quite some time. His twin brother Frank died in the United States from kidney failure. And this is Miriam and I a week after the kidney transplant in Israel. So we have now here again Helen Rappaport and Pearl Pufulis, but what I want to also describe here a poster with tattoos. I was concerned that we are not going to be able to get any kind of information because I started worrying about the tattoos after Miriam died. I never took a picture of her tattoo, and once she died I wondered how did her tattoo look. So I put this poster together. What I want to only explain about it, that all the tattoos have the same ink. Some of them have triangles underneath, some of them had no letters, and the latest group that was started in 1944 was the Hungarian Transport, have the letter A because it's the first letter in the alphabet. We have here again a little exhibit of Helen and Pearl. Just when they arrived in the United States with their brothers, these are a picture of their two sisters as they were little girls, and this is as grown women in the United States. The poster here shows the children liberated in Auschwitz by the Soviet army, and we have here the grown-ups in 1985, which was just 40 years after liberation. At Yad Vashem, we had a conference there, and here is this is me, this is Miriam, this is Renee, Irene Hizme, the Mengele Twins here are the Mengele Twins. Now here is Hedva and the Stern Twins right here. Yona and her twin sister. Oh, here are the Mengele Twins, 1, 2. And this is Zvi Spiegel, the twin who helped the twin brothers. Here is Ephraim Reichenberg. No, this is Menashe Lowenzi. Ephraim Reichenberg. Here is Ephraim Reichenberg. So as I name these, but it's a poster that we wanted to have the twins' pictures here. We have here a poster about my efforts to find our files and find Mengele. Then we are going to finish here with my trip to Auschwitz with Dr. Hans Munch in 1995, where he signed the documentation of the gas chamber, which was very, very important because that documents by a Nazi that the gas chambers existed and how they operated. And this is my little letter to Dr. Munch, forgiving him and forgiving everybody. The other poster up there is again the picture of the liberation and the picture in 1985. And what I would like to read here, that from the Auschwitz lab on to heal the pain, to teach the truth and to prevent prejudice. It was one of the slogans I used. Here is again a big, big poster about my meeting with Dr. Munch and how that all came about. And I would like to finish that little tour. I want to show again some of the children who were liberated in Auschwitz. These pictures, the liberation of Auschwitz was after a lot of fighting, and the Nazis were not willing to give up. One day everything seemed to be quiet, and we thought this would be the day we would be free. But we didn't know how that would happen. It was January 27, 1945. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon. A woman ran into the barrack yelling at the top of her voice, "We are free, we are free, we are free." And then I was very excited, but I didn't see anything. And when I went downstairs from this 2-story building to try to see what was going on, it was snowing. I stood there maybe half an hour when I saw at a distance lots of people wrapped up in white camouflage raincoats, and they were smiling, and the most important thing was that they didn't look like the Nazis. We ran up to them, they gave us chocolate, cookies, and hugged, and this happened to be the Soviet army. They came into the barrack, it was 4:30 in the afternoon. They drank a little bit of vodka, they danced Russian dances, and it took maybe 2 or 3 days after they surveyed the camp and they got filming equipment because they didn't have it with them, to march us between 2 rows of barbed wire, dress us up in striped prison uniform, and this is actually known as the liberation picture. But this was a staging of the liberation picture because we were already free. But it is very important because that at least we can see how we looked. And This is a picture of my husband when he was liberated. He was liberated in Buchenwald by the American Army, and the Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Neff, who liberated him, he was from Terre Haute, Indiana. And when the war ended, my husband said, I would like to go to America, will you help me? And that's the way he ended up in Terre Haute. He never ever wanted to be anywhere else. Here is the way the museum, the entrance looks. In front of the building, we have railroad tracks, and our slogan says, Holocaust education promotes peace. We also have the statement, repair the world, celebrate life, forgive and heal. These are some of the slogans that we are trying to advocate here. And my biggest message to the world is today, forgiveness. I forgave the Nazis, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve it. And when I talked to a Jewish scholar who said to me, Eva, that is not the way Jewish people act. You have to, the perpetrator has to repent and ask for forgiveness. And I asked him, do you think that Hitler, Mengele, or any of the other Nazis will repent and ask for forgiveness? And he immediately responded, probably not. I said, well, where does it leave me? Does it mean that if they don't repent and ask for forgiveness, must I remain a victim for the rest of my life? And he didn't answer. And I told him, no way, I refuse to be a victim. So we must understand that the forgiveness is not for the perpetrator, but to help the victims heal themselves. So I hope when people come to the museum and actually look around, we have another room with some exhibits, but this is the lecture room, lecture hall, that they are going to leave the museum with a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, but also not with despair in their heart, but hope, which is desperately needed, because I believe that there is always hope after despair, and there is always a tomorrow after disaster. And forgiveness is a seed for peace, while anger is a seed for war. So come see the museum, learn, help us teach the world to heal itself through forgiveness. Thank you.